So now that we've covered looping, we've got the foundations to start manually changing the structure of the beat. Probably the easiest method of doing this is to add extra drum hits by cutting the sounds in from one deck to the other. So you'll need to apply the technique of cutting, otherwise known as the forward scratch, in which you only allow the forward part of a sound to be heard. So if I did a forward scratch on this first kick drum, it would sound like this. So I'm basically opening the crossfader to play the sound, but closing it before I rewind the sound to mute the kick drum sound in reverse. You can look at your laptop screen as a guide when you're doing this to keep accurate, but ideally you want to become familiar enough with the response of your jog wheels to be able to do these movements without looking at the screen. So I'm going to start off with an 8-beat loop beginning with deck 1, but this time I'm going to cut in some extra kick drums from deck 2 before launching it to continue the 8-beat loop. I'll then do the same on the left side by cutting in some extra kick drums from deck 1 before launching it again for another 8 beats. When doing this, be sure to cut in your extra kick drums in between the existing drum sounds, so listen for the space in the original beat and pick your moments. You can also do the same technique by cutting in snare drums instead of kick drums. So let's go ahead and add a second cue point to the first snare drum of the beat, which is on beat 2. So if we start by playing deck 1 for 8 beats, we can now cut in extra snare drums from deck 2, but in order to keep our loop going, we need to eventually cue back to our first kick drum to play the beat from our original starting point. You can cue and cut in drum hits entirely manually using the platter, or using the cue points, or a combination of the two. Just experiment with it and see what techniques work for you. Not only can we cut in other sounds that make up our beat, such as hi-hats and snares, we can also loop our beat from these sounds. However, the starting point of our loop will be different depending on which sound we release from. For example, we can loop the beat from our first snare drum, which you'll remember is at beat 2, which means we no longer have to cue back to the kick drum at beat 1. So in this case, the second beat in the bar now becomes our new starting point for the loop.